Good evening, everyone. As the chairman, I want to address what I believe to be the breakdown of proper decorum at recent county council meetings by numerous members of this body. In that regard, I will be following more closely the guidance for decorum provided by Robert's Rules of Order. Let me begin by reminding everyone that South Carolina law, section 4-9-110, part of the Home Rule Act, provides the council shall determine its own rules and order of business. The Sumter County Council has determined that its own rules and order of business, which is codified in the Code of Ordinances, Sumter County, section 2-55, which reads, meetings of county council shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order, section 43 is titled Rules Governing Debate. Subsection 4320 is titled Confining Remarks to the Merits of the Pending Question and provides, in debate, the member's remarks must be germane to the question before the assembly. That is, the statements must have bearing on whether the immediately pending motion should be adopted. Subsection 4321 is titled Refraining from Attacking a Member's Motives and provides, when a question is pending, a member can condemn the nature or likely consequences of the proposed measure in strong terms, but he must avoid personalities and under no circumstances can he attack or question the motives of another member. The measure, not the member, is the subject of debate. If a member disagrees with a statement by another regarding an event that both witnessed, he cannot state in debate that the other statement is false. But he might say, I believe there's a strong evidence that the member is mistaken. The moment the chair hears such words as fraud, liar, or lie used about a member in debate, he must act immediately and decisively to correct the matter and prevent its repetition. Subsection 4322 is titled Addressing All Remarks Through the Chair and reads, members of an assembly cannot address one another directly, but must address all remarks through the chair. Subsection 4324 is titled Refraining from Speaking Adversely on a Prior Action Not Pending, and provides, in debate, a member cannot reflect adversely on any prior act of the society that is not then pending unless a motion to reconsider, rescind, or amend it is pending, or unless he intends to conclude his remarks by making or giving notice of one of these motions. In summary, there are many more rules, but these that I have lifted out today are particularly important if we are to have meaningful, collaborative debate on the issues that come before this council. And I trust everyone will comply with these rules going forward. And I call County Council meeting for Tuesday, June 22nd to order. Ms. B, would you please give us an invocation?
Let us pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we do acknowledge you as the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We thank you for being the provider of all good and perfect gifts. And we thank you for appointing us as leaders and servants to our county. As we begin our meeting, we invite your presence and ask that you abide with us. And while you're with us, help us to have consideration for every item on our agenda that is before us. Help us to have wisdom, understanding, and knowledge to be able to make the decisions that are according to your will. We ask your blessings upon everyone under the sound of my voice. And as we go through this meeting and come to the end, we ask that you take us safely home to our families and that everyone will have a great evening and a great summer. These and all blessings we thank and ask in your name. Amen.
We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be led by Veteran Victor Jones, which I believe is in Ms. Fleming McGainey's district number 5. Ms. McGaney.
And I'm not masked, but I'm fully vaccinated. Yes, sir. Mr. Jones, it is definitely my pleasure. I think I lost my script. And as I walk and talk, we're talking about Mr. Jones as a veteran, but he served our county years ago. And when he came, when I first saw him this evening, I was looking for an old man. So if you could come up to the podium, please. And should I do this before or afterwards?
It's up to you, Ms.
Okay. Yes, so that everyone will know who Mr. Jones is. Mr. Jones served as the county public safety person years ago. And were you there when I was first elected?
Yeah.
Yes. But that was years ago, and we appreciate that service. But it's also a pleasure to know that you have come back to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. And I would just like to read this short biography of Mr. Jones, prepared by our Veterans Affairs person. And it is, the words are, U.S. retired Marine veteran Victor C. Jones served our country for more than 40 years of combined active duty and National Guard service. He served in both field artillery and infantry divisions as a first sergeant. He also retired from the Sumter County government after providing 38 years of service in public safety. He is currently a member of the American Legion Post 15 and the Marine Corps League in Sumter. He is married to Joan and they have 2 children, 6 grandchildren. He currently lives in Council District 5, the one that I represent. And we just want to thank you for your service and thank you for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag this evening. And after this, I will, okay, but I wanted it with him, but, and I'll present it to him after the point of judgment. Thank you. All right.
Well, y'all, recite the pledge with me.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank y'all.
And thank Ms. Brunson, I couldn't call you Henry. Nice to meet you.
Ms. Lanning, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Move for approval. Second.
Been moved and properly seconded that we approve our agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Have a motion to approve our minutes from.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and properly seconded that we approve our minutes for our regular meeting of Tuesday, June 8th. Any discussion? Hearing none, the minutes for Tuesday, June 8th is approved. Next item on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? I'm sorry, all opposed. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Land use matters. Ms. Rubin. And prior to each of, after each of these next two items, there will be a public hearing prior to council taking action. Ms. Rubin.
Our first item on the agenda is RZ 2110 at 915 North Wise Drive. The applicant is South Carolina Department of Mental Health. We do have representatives here to speak on behalf of the request as authorized agents. This is a request to rezone approximately 77 acres of land from heavy industrial to limited commercial. This is the property in question. It has recently been subdivided from the larger tract. It's just north of the Crystal Lakes Golf Course on the east side of Wise Drive. It is currently zoned heavy industrial, as is the property to the north, south, and east of light industrial to the west. However, the property to the south, as I had noted, is Crystal Lakes Golf Course, so it is a public open space, and the property to the west is currently an undeveloped floodway. The applicant's requesting this rezoning in order to allow the development creation of a veterans nursing home, as well as future potential transitional care for veterans. This rezoning is required because currently our industrial districts do not permit any sort of nursing care or residential uses. This is the current floodplain map. It does have floodplain along the Wise Drive frontage. We have preliminary maps that are currently under review with pending adoption within the next year, which will change the size and shape of this floodplain, but will retain the large developable area that you see to the east of the property. When we look at rezoning requests, we look at what the comprehensive land use plan says for the property. Although this is in proximity of the Black River Industrial Park, it is actually part of our suburban development planning area, so it is not planned or slated for industrial preservation. Planning staff does find that rezoning this property to limited commercial, which is the least intense commercial district that they can go to that will allow their proposed uses, is compatible with the goals and objectives of the plan. Planning Commission does recommend approval of this request. It's not within a defined industrial park, and it's not influenced by a priority economic development area. A significant majority of the property is developable and outside of a special flood hazard area, with secondary access available outside of the special flood hazard area. And we do find that it is consistent with the 2040 plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Ms. Rubin? Hearing none, prior to us taking action on this second reading, I now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak for or are against this rezoning request, please proceed to the podium. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ken Roy. Work for the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. We provide oversight for the state for the operation of the existing state veterans nursing homes, and we'll also provide oversight for the construction of this one. And I just wanted to thank the county for all the support we've received to date. It's a great project that proceeds on schedule. We should be beginning construction early next year, and we'll serve 104 veterans as residents of this new facility. So appreciate again all the support today. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Anyone else wishing to speak before council? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we have second reading on RZ 2110. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Rezoning request number 2110 is approved. RZ request number 2112 is
RZ 2112 is a request to rezone 911 Oswego Highway. The applicant is Mr. Michael Harriet, the property owner, and he is here to speak on behalf of the request. This request is to rezone approximately a third of an acre of property from light industrial warehouse to agricultural conservation. It's comprised of two parcels that, when combined, do make up 0.29 acres and has historically been used for a single-family residential use. In 1999, when countywide zoning came to be, for some reason this particular property became zoned light industrial warehouse. As you can see, it's got a fairly small house on it. That house was built in 1958 and has remained a house since then. Mr. Harriet is seeking this rezoning because in our industrial districts, residential uses are not by right or conditional uses, which fundamentally makes this property grandfathered non-conforming. Mr. Harriet is seeking this rezoning in an effort. This is how the house stands today. Under the current zoning, it wouldn't be allowed to be made any bigger or taller or have any more square footage. It fundamentally pauses in time with this current footprint. A rezoning action would allow it to be expanded or rebuilt if anything happened to it. These are just views of it along Oswego Highway. It does have some influences on it in terms of environmental to the east. There are some potential mapped natural wetlands areas, as well as some future special flood hazard area, which does make development of this property impractical for industrial uses in the future. Although this property is in a priority commercial mixed-use node, if the current floodplain maps were updated to our proposed future ones, this particular property would actually be influenced by conservation preservation. The Conservation Preservation District does permit and support rezoning properties to less intense districts such as agricultural, because it severely limits the type of intense uses that can be used on the property. Planning Commission does recommend approval of this request. Although the property is less than 1 acre in size, which is the minimum lot size in the AC district, it does have sufficient area to meet all of the required residential setbacks for the AC district, with areas for future expansion on the property. We also believe that the future and current environmental influences support that less intense agricultural zoning. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Ms. Ruth? Thank you, Ms. Ruth. The public hearing for RZ 2112 is now open. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please proceed to the podium and say your name for the record.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Michael Harriet, and I wish to apologize for my last time here where I did not enunciate my name. The chairman had to do so on my behalf, so that was my primary reason for standing up, was to offer you that apology. And thank you for all the support that I've had from the staff. They've been tremendous, assisting me in this effort. I'll be out there and answer any questions you may have. That's what my intent here is.
Thank you, Mr. Harriet. Anyone else wishing to speak for council? Public hearing is now closed. Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we have second reading, RZ 2112. Any discussion?
Just
Hearing none, all
want to
in-
say, I would just like to thank him for, keeping it up. It looks so nice out there. And you're worthy to be emulated, you know, with no one living there. It looks so good. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? It's been moved and properly seconded. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Second, reading for RZ 2112. Moving on to new business. On September 1st, 1969, Eddie Newman started working for Sumter County government as an engineering aide in the Public Works Department. His salary at the time was $100 a week before taxes. Eddie would go on to be the engineering assistant, the assistant public works director, and the interim public works director. He remembers using motor graders as snow plows during the record-breaking snowstorm in 1973. Not long after Hurricane Hugo crashed into the coast and then through Sumter, Eddie took over as director of public works. He can tell you stories about all the natural disasters his department has responded to, and it's been quite a few. So now, after all these years, and as the longest serving Sumter County employee of all time, Eddie is finally calling it a day. And now Eddie has earned some time to enjoy working in the garden and maybe a little bit of time on the golf course. That is, if Debbie says it's okay. Eddie and his wife Debbie have been married for 10 years. They have a blended family of 3 boys, Michael, Christopher, and Cameron, and 2 girls, Dana and Shelby. They are blessed with 9 grandchildren who will undoubtedly keep them occupied this summer. Eddie, on behalf of Sumter County Council, we want to thank you for over half a century of service and dedication to Sumter County government, and we hope you enjoy your well-earned retirement. Well done, and Godspeed. Any other council members want to address? Please feel free to do so.
Congratulations, Mr. Newman.
Yes. I want to thank everybody. You know how I have to explain our team. Suffolk County team, council, all of us. We worked very hard with a little money to do some of the things we've done and really progressed our county. I can really share. We're not going to start with stories. Don't let me do that. We're not going to do that. But, you know, I go back to the days when you couldn't get mail delivered for 2 or 3 days. If you lived on a dirt road, you had to take the kids to the paved road to get them on a school bus. We've come a long ways, ladies and gentlemen. And it's because of the effort of council and the employees of Sumter County. Did a great job. That's pat all of us on the back. I want to thank you. I think I've enjoyed working with each and all of y'all. And it's just been a pleasure doing this. But everybody told me when it comes time to retire, you will know it. And about, there was 6 months, Gary and I talked 6 months, I don't know, 5 months ago, and talked about it. I said, Gary, I think June 30th, the end of our fiscal year, would be a good time. So that's what we did. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here in Suffolk County. Plan on enjoying it. Done a lot. Somebody's asked me several times if I want to go to work for them. I said no, because you're going to want me at your place at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. And it's just not going to happen. It will not happen. So please, that's my game plan right now. But I'm going to be around. Everybody will keep seeing me. So I look forward to it. So thank you all for all you've done. Gary Nixon, what a great friend. You know, just, now that I've looked at the pictures there, I won't tell stories. But Gary and I, when we played in the Rutherford Green golf tournament, y'all would not recognize that young man who was on the golf cart. I almost cried, but I did. It was really a good picture. But council, again, thank you all. Like I said, let's just hope God keeps blessing Suffolk County and the United States of America. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also make a comment if I could. I personally want to thank you, Eddie, for everything you've done. I mean, I've learned so much about your job.
Right.
And, I guess my big question is, I gotta take you off the speed dial. Can I still call you?
Yeah.
Karen or whoever's gonna be the next one, I'm gonna need that number quick.
And like I said, we always, we don't have a problem, when you call and tell, look into something, we'll look into it. And
Well, I do want to thank you, and I
Well, thank
appreciate
you. Thank
all
you.
you've done to help me and issues.
Well,
that I
we
have.
enjoy helping the citizens of this county.
You have.
And we take the safety and health of our citizens very much, number one priority.
Thank you.
And this is a proclamation from county, and I know you don't want me to read this whole thing. But one thing that I have learned from this, I didn't know your name was Marvin. Marvin Eddie Newman. But I will read this: be it further resolved that members of Sumter County Council agree that it is extremely fitting that Mr. Marvin Eddie Newman be lauded for his life of service. It is council's hope that God will continue to give him a humble, loving spirit, seasoned with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, as council declares June 30th, 2021 as Mr. Marvin Eddie Newman Day in Sumter, South Carolina, given under the seal of the county, Sumter County, South Carolina. James T. McCain, Jr., Chairman, attested by Ms. Mary W. Blanding, Clerk to
Thank
Council.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on behalf of council and staff, we'd like to present this to you, sir. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for all you did for the
Thank you.
citizens.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, while Eddie's walking around shaking hands,
I'm just gonna take a picture. I'm not running for anything.
I would like to say this isn't the only thing that we will be doing with Eddie over the next week or so. We're gonna parade him around like a beauty queen.
Wrong word.
But, yes, there's gonna be a number of opportunities for staff, and his fellow department heads. We'll have a special event for Eddie as well.
Thank you.
And there we will share some of the stories, that we probably can't publicly.
That's right.
But, Eddie has a rich history, with the county, a rich history. His family's got a rich history in Sumter County. Many of you know his family as well. And he's gonna be sorely missed. Karen will be announced later on. We'll have some very big shoes to fill. But, so proud of Eddie. I consider him a friend. I've lost more money than I should probably on golf course field. And probably now that he's retired, he'll probably take even more. But anyway, thank you, Eddie. Thank you for all you've done. Look forward to working. Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is presentation and required action on revisions to Sumter County's countywide vehicle use policy. Ms. Dennis?
Good evening. I hope you all had a chance to review the policy that was sent to you, the vehicle operation and use policy. This policy will not be given to all employees, only to those who have assigned county vehicles and those who have access to county vehicles. The policy that we are currently operating off of is dated 2008. And we're actually using two policies, the one that's dated 2008 and a policy that was put in place by the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. What we have done is combine both policies to create one policy. Sheriff is aware of it as well, and will use the combined Sumter County policy instead of his office having one and we having something different. Now, I will tell you that the biggest change in this policy, in the revised policy, is the amount of reimbursement when there is a vehicular accident and the employee is at fault. The old policy states that the reimbursement amount may range from $50 to $1,000, depending on the amount of damage and negligence of the employee. Whereas the new revised policy shows where first, second, and third collisions, and it specifies how much the minimum will be. And it doesn't give a ending value. So most of them will start at 100. The first one is $100. Second is $250, and the third one is $500, and they can go up as well. We have had some issues in the past with a lot of vehicular accidents, and we have been asked by the Association of Counties to put a policy in place, and this is why we're combining the policy and changing some of the rules. We will also have all of our employees who drive county vehicles to go through a driving training course as well. But this is the piece that we have to have approved so that we can start using it effective as of July 1.
Move for approval. Second. This is required.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the revisions as stated by Ms. Dennis. Any discussions or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Bryan, does this require 3 readings or just 1?
Well, it's a good question because I'd have to reflect back on whether the prior policy was established by an ordinance or resolution. You know, equal dignity would require 3 readings if the prior policy had been set by an ordinance. So I didn't look that up. I wasn't prepared for your question, quite frankly. As she was reading that, I was thinking, I wonder if the prior policy was set by an ordinance. I know our employee manual has been set by an ordinance. Employee handbook, that is. So if you would, at least you that first reading, we'll get back with you on that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
If we may.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 21-954, first reading. Mr. Bryan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, this is an ordinance to abandon a paper street. I asked Ms. Langen, she just flip over to the picture of the first picture of the street, might be helpful. Page down. There's a letter from Mr. Ms. Hatfield asking us to abandon whatever interest we may have in this paper street. And there's an aerial photograph that shows the property, and you can see an outline of what would have been Martino Avenue had it ever been developed. So if you go to the next picture, please. That's a plat that Mr. and Ms. Hatfield are trying to get approved, subdivided out of their larger tract, a home site where they want to build a house. And you can see in very vague or light print, the footprint of that parcel overlaps the paper street. That is preventing that plat from getting approval. So in order to get that paper street off of the GIS system, we need to abandon our interest in it and give them a quick claim deed. Go with one more picture, please, Ms. Blanding. If you could center that for me, if you can. What you see there outlined in blue is a picture that shows the property description in their deed. They bought everything that's in that blue. So they actually own, or at least have a claim of right for the dirt in Martino Avenue. So for that reason, I think it'd be appropriate for the county council to just abandon its interest in Martino Avenue and provide a quick claim deed to Mr. Ms. Hatfield. That's my recommendation to the council concerning this paper street.
For approval first reading.
Second.
And moved and properly seconded that we have first reading on ordinance number 21-954. Any discussion? Hearing one, all in favor of approving first reading, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, ordinance 21-954, first reading is approved. Ordinance 21-955, first reading, Mr. Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, the city of Sumter would like to run water and sewer lines out to the property that was purchased by Nova Molecular. So they need an easement across property that was part of property we purchased on the Lawrence family. And this ordinance will allow the city to have an easement across that property. If you go up a little bit, shows a picture. The actual next document is the proposed easement deed. That's all right. This next page, if you would, please. Thank you. Top of the page, this is kind of oriented toward south, I believe, but you have 521, and then on the left side, you scroll it up a little bit. On the left side of that track, you see Racetrack Road, and then the easement will be parallel to Racetrack Road down to property section owned by Nova Recovery Oz Holdings LLC. That's the path the city wants to use to get water and sewer to that parcel of land. Does that answer your question?
I know the county does have option on the other piece across the road. How would they plan on getting across the road? Have they spoken with Nova Recovery about continuing with this easement on their property to come on down?
I don't know.
Some thought needs to be put into that as to how they're gonna, if something were to ever happen, and the county did exercise that option for an industry.
That's on the other side of Racetrack Road. That's on the
Straight across from the,
right. So the city would have to get that's right across the Racetrack Road.
you see how that property, the other little piece of property. It couldn't just go straight across right there without hitting an easement. Whoever owns that property to get to the other one, you know.
Unless they just cross the road right there where the pump station is going to be.
That's what I'm saying, then they got to get an easement from whoever owns that piece of property, because that's not the property the county has the option on. That's, you know, somebody.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Maybe we talk after
Yeah.
the meeting. And I could see if I can get an answer for the next meeting.
I think I understand the question, certainly we can get an answer, but we could probably stay within our current right of way on that side of the road if need be without getting to the other property. But that's something we can look at, even running on parallel, in our current right of way.
Any other questions? Comments, move for approval.
So,
Moving properly seconded that we approve first reading for ordinance 21-955. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? On first reading, ordinance 21-955 is approved. Ordinance 21-956, first reading, Mr. Bryant.
Dear members of council, ordinance 21-956 is an ordinance to add to the responsibilities of the Public Works Solid Waste Committee, the litter removal and disposal. And you have before you the entire rewording of section 2-24A7 as will appear in the code of ordinances of Suffolk County if you approve this amendment.
Move for approval. I hear two approvals, I have a second. I hear two motions to approve.
I'll second the first one.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that we have first reading on ordinance 21-956. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance 21-956, first reading is approved. Next item on the agenda is county council standing committee liaisons, etc., and a discussion and possible action.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you allowing me to address this issue. The reason why I brought this item up because I was concerned when members of the community approached me about a decision that was made and by members of this board. And I had to tell them that I didn't know anything about it, that I was kept in the dark. I feel that there have been some clandestine meetings that have been taking place, secret, covert meetings, and that the decisions that were made at these meetings were not shared with all members of county council. And this is something new to me because in my 15 years on council, I've never experienced anything like this. So that's why I'm concerned about committee meetings or committee appointments, particularly appointments to the liaison committee, if that is a committee, or the persons on that liaison committee. I know that every 2 years we try to approve new committee appointments, and I haven't had any problems with that. I usually go along with it. But there's one committee that I feel is a very contentious committee. Things that are happening on this liaison group, and it relates to the school district, is very contentious. And I feel that schools are under pressure, school board trustees are under pressure to accept certain agreements because they're under the impression that these agreements have been concurred and agreed upon by the full council members. And that's why I call them secret clandestine meetings, because I wasn't aware. So we have 2 people on the Education Liaison Committee. And normally we try to, since we are a bipartisan group, we try to put people on both political parties on the group so that we can have fairness as well as transparency. But the 2 people that are serving now, so it's going to be my recommendation that the 2 people that are serving now on the Education Liaison Committee, they should be of a different political party, one Democrat, one Republican. This will prevent any political pressure on the school board trustees, and also this will increase transparency and feedback to all. And let me reiterate that, to all members of county council. And therefore, when someone approached me in the future, I'm not going to look there dumbfounded and say, this decision was made and I have no knowledge of what took place. So, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you look into these appointments and make the adjustments that are needed so that this body can once again function with integrity. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Bateman. And
Mr. Chairman.
may I say that, before I became chairman, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Byrd was on the Educational Liaison Committee. I don't know that Mr. Baker was.
Earlier years.
And I think that all I did was move all of the positions forward that had been on the liaison committees 2 years ago. This year, when we planted, I did the exact same thing, with the exception that Mr. Washington now replaced Mr. Sumter. When Ms. Blanding sent out the list for review by council, the only council member that asked me to make any changes was Ms. Fleming McCain, which I did. It went back out to council for their review. Nobody asked me to change anything, and when it came up for a vote, it passed unanimously. According to the Sumter Code, one of the things that the chairman is responsible for is to appoint committees subject to approval of council. That's exactly what I did. And as far as the meetings, we started having these meetings when Dr. Ralph Kenny suggested that we meet. Nobody had any problems then. And I'll also go to say we did not coerce the school board. All we did was listen. And my stated purpose was, as you always say, the Republicans never vote for the school district. So I wanted Mr. Baker and Mr. Byrd to hear the concerns and the needs of the school district, which they did. We did not coerce the school district. The school district came to us and asked for 2 meals. We didn't tell them what they could for the 2 meals. And we voted for it. So I just want to make that clear.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure the black kids who are in our school district, underprivileged kids, are happy of the crumbs that we threw to them from this council.
Mr. Bateman, that's not relevant to the commissions.
Yes, it is. You're trying to defend something, and I'm talking about the behavior and conduct of the members, not who's on it. I said we need to change it to make sure we have transparency, but they did not fail. They failed to share what was happening with the full council. I knew nothing about it. Okay. I've been a member of this council for 15 years, and I've never experienced anything like this before. Okay. They failed to share. It's their conduct that's in question, not whether they are members of a board.
Right? Okay, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me for a point of personal privilege. But I think this could be easily resolved if we go back to the recommendation that I made at this last council meeting, which is for our entire council to meet with the school district. We have nothing to hide. And if information is being shared with half the council, it just makes perfect sense to me to share the information with the entire council. And I have no issue with the media or citizens or anybody else participating, because we have, or I have, nothing to hide. I would also call to your attention, Mr. Chairman, that in my review of this issue, there may be some ethical and moral implications as a result of these meetings. And let me just quickly say that the councilman from Dazzell, a councilman from Pinewood. They have no exposure on this because these appointments were made by you, Mr. Chairman.
And voted on by
Both, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both these men, as I am a business person, and to have a meeting to talk about finances where they may be impacted is not appropriate. And again, I do not have any misgivings about Councilman from Dazzell, Councilman from Pinewood. We've been able to work on some issues, so I'm not making any suggestions about them. I think it was an error in judgment by you, Mr. Chairman, to put them in that situation. And my goal on this council is not to make friends or to curry favor or to make sure this person or that person votes a certain way. As a matter of fact, I do not even see the D's and R's. What I see is a government that should be providing basic services to people. And Mr. Chairman, we are not doing that. So I want to come back to you again and ask you to schedule at least 2 meetings a year with the school board, with county council, one in the fall and one at the beginning of the budget cycle, January, February, so that we all can absorb the same information and make appropriate decisions about the school district. I read today that the school district will be offering a 1 to 2% increase to custodians, groundskeepers, cafeteria workers. The people who absolutely need the raises the most, and most other employees will be getting 3%. Now, somehow, Mr. Chairman, that just does not square with me, and it shouldn't square with anybody else on this council. And we have to make adjustments to make sure the lowest people on the totem pole are taken care of. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, one quick comment, and I don't think county council has anything to do with who got what percentage. That is the school district. If you want to blame somebody, blame the school district.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Washington.
Mr. Chairman.
I believe that when you brought that issue up about the school board meeting with county council, I told you that I would agree to it as long as the chairman of the school board would agree to it. So I took that under advisement, and we will do that, and we just need to move on. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would love to move on, but the council member from Wilson Hall made a comment that I just cannot let go. He indicated what the school district is capable of doing. Well, nobody knows that because there are only a few people who met with the school board. And in my private conversations with members of the school board, that is not what I was told. Now, I'm not sure who the council member is talking to from Wilson Hall, but that is just not factual. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, very full. I don't think, and I also talked to members of the school board, and they were not in agreement with this 2 meals that was given to them. You might say they were in agreement with it, but when you are pressured to accept crumbs, then that's what you accept.
Mr. Baker, you're out of order.
Oh, no, you out of order.
Yeah, well, you know what, I'm the chairman, Mr. Baker, and when you get provost to be chairman, you can be chairman.
Well, let me say
That
this.
has nothing to do
Mr.
with
Edens
discussion.
brought up the school, about the school accepting that they are the problem. Why are you gonna throw the problem on the school?
Well, it's the school board that made the decision, Mr. Bacon.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they did.
Okay, well, that's not what I was told.
But that's still.
What I was told that they didn't have no choice, that these 2 mills was forced upon them, and they had no choice.
Let's meet and we'll.
Okay, well,
That's
you
not
know,
true.
okay,
not
that's what
true.
you were saying. But see, we would never know it because we were never informed.
Okay.
I was never informed. It was kept a secret. And that's my problem right now, is that these clandestine meetings have to stop. Because I'm a member of this council, Mr. Chairman, just like you are, and I should be informed of decisions and negotiations that are taking place by this body. And when you feel as though that cannot happen, Mr. Chairman, it's time for you to resign.
That's not gonna happen, so you have no say in that.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of privilege, please. Yes. Okay, this council, as long as I've been on the county council, we have had a couple of liaison committees. One was city, county, and one was the school liaison committee. And whenever we met, we would bring reports back to the full body. And so that is something that, you know, when there's a mistake made, we need to correct it. So that's something that probably needs to happen. Yeah, just 1 second. And cause mine is real quick. And when you request this meeting, I would like to add not only just the 2 bodies meeting, county council and school board, also invite our legislative delegation, because they have a big part to do with the pot of money, the coffers that we are to be able to pull from. And that's the problem that we really are having because of the way our tax structure has been restructured, and we have limited funds, and when we have limited funds, all kinds of problems come about. So 2 things, moving forward, whenever a liaison committee meets, if a report is given to the full body, and then when a meeting is planned, and you know, this is just a suggestion for this part now, that if you would also consider bringing the delegation along too. Thank you.
When the time comes again, I will do both.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just in terms of strategy, it would probably be a good idea for council and the school board to meet first before we go to the delegation. And the reason I say that is because the main problem that we are having is Act 388. Mr. Chairman, but it does. It does, Mr. Chairman. You may not want me to go down that road, but it is absolutely relevant and pertinent to this conversation because it looms in the background of every decision that we make as it relates to funding education. I'm a businessman too, I get it. I don't want to tax businesses, but the reason we're in this position is because we've allowed the legislative delegation to push us around like chumps. And we've not pushed back, and we've not pushed back on Act 388. And it's time for us to go to the delegation and demand that they change it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yes, we had an internal affairs committee meeting this evening, all members present, and we took the following action. Made a motion and second to appoint 3 new members, Barbara Richburg to 1 year, Ernest Rice 2 years, and Russell Brandon 3 years to the litter committee. That's a motion and second come from the committee, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second coming from the committee. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And there's a motion second come to committee with unanimous vote to appoint Charles Enos as ex officio to that same committee.
Same. We have a motion and a second coming from the committee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Monthly reports, Mr. Brandon.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, I made a recommendation And, would you please tell me what you plan to do with this recommendation?
I don't know, I'll take it under consideration.
I beg your pardon?
I'll take it under consideration.
Well, okay, that's all I wanted to hear you say. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, I got skipped over any reports from council members having attended meetings, trainings, or conferences? Hearing none, monthly reports, Mr. Graham.
Council members, the COVID report is in your packet, and also in the packet is the SCAC conference. I think I've taken care of the needs of the council members as far as which institute classes or some of the other programs that may be happening, which ones you would be going to. Maysville renovation project through the Pinnacle Progress will be July 8th. And we do need the chairman there and Mrs. McGaney and all the other council members, but that is Mrs. McGaney's area. So we would definitely need the chairman and Mrs. McGaney, but we'd like to have all the council members there. Also, there are several other ribbon cuttings that will be coming up, and there will be one for the gym, one for the animal shelter, and there's one other one for, we're gonna have a ribbon cutting for the airport, but we'll get back with you on that, section of the airport. And we just actually, we'll get the dates and times to you, but just be mindful of that. Thank you.
Mr. Mixon, County Administrator.
Chair, council members, good evening. Just a couple of items. Wanted to inform council that we are moving forward with the art gallery renovation. As you know, we have a major exhibit coming in September, the Norman Rockwell exhibit, probably one of the more higher profile exhibits we've had at Patriot Hall. And there's some desperately needed renovations to the HVAC system over there to make sure that the climate is controlled for that exhibit. So we will be signing that contract to move on with that project tomorrow, and fully anticipate it will be ready for the exhibit in September. Also, the audit process seems like we just rolled out of the budget process. Now we're in the audit process. We will be entering into negotiations and signing a contract with Webster Rogers to get on their schedule so that we can get started with on-site visits in August and September with hopefully a conclusion by the end of this calendar year. Last thing I wanted to mention was we discussed the litter committee tonight. Wanted to inform council and the public that we've already moved forward with purchasing one piece of the major piece of equipment. We went ahead and got that order in early in anticipation that there will be a large demand for this. As I informed council earlier, the state of South Carolina has also budgeted some funds for the litter process program, so we fully anticipate the need for equipment is going to be high demand. Also, the 5 positions, we are in the process now of developing those work positions, and we'll put those out for application in July. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair, just a couple of comment questions for the county administrator.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mixon, congratulations on how quickly you've been moving to implement the litter program. I like the movement on that. I know the city is a little bit behind, but I really think staff has done a good job on that, so congratulations. The federal COVID money that's coming down, I think it's about 23 million or something. I think we may have got 21. We may have gotten some of that. I'm getting a lot of questions from nonprofits, churches, and other organizations who have been provided needed services in the community during COVID. Are we going to have a application packet for them to maybe participate to continue providing?
Yes, sir.
Can you and I get together on that?
We'll actually bring this to county council. Staff and myself included just last week been getting all the rollout information from the treasurer's office, Department of Treasury, and there's a lot of information out there. And we're trying to decipher that now, but at some point, we will come to council with a strategy and a proposal.
Right.
And certainly the nonprofits and others will be involved in that. We anticipate there will be some public meetings as well.
Right.
We will take this out to the public so we can get their interest and needs as well.
I'd love to be engaged as possible with that. Thank you, Mr. Mixon. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Come now to the public comment section where any citizens wishing or desiring to speak to council, you have 3 minutes. Please direct all comments to the chair. Please state your name for the record. I now declare the public comment portion of our agenda open. Anyone wishing to address council, please proceed to the mic. Hearing none, the public comment section is closed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Move to properly seconded.